Our next three speakers will present their very short case studies, Petriculture style. I'd like to invite them to come up and join us here. First of all, we'll hear from the Rural Network, Bryce Eldredge, who along with his co-founder Amy Schultz is pioneering the sharing economy in regional and rural South Australia. Amy's unable to make it today because she's exploring ideas, opportunities in China. And the Rural Network's doing some amazing work in over 63 South Australian communities and is fast becoming known for its positive impact that it's having in the lives of those rural South Australians. So following Bryce will be Justin Passaportis, GoGet's General Manager for Victoria and South Australia. And Justin's grown this business since he joined it 3 years ago. And the size of the fleet and membership base across Melbourne and Adelaide is pretty impressive. They have over 500 vehicles and at least 20,000 members. And GoGet is looking to roll out nationwide across major airports, which I think will be an interesting development. He's also, you'll hear from his accent, born and raised in Zimbabwe, just saying. And Justin will be followed by Ludwina Dortovic from the Room Exchange, which offers a slightly different model to room sharing. Ludwina has been a successful entrepreneur for over 2 decades and is the founder of the Room Exchange. And she's an investor in new startups and technology, and is quite often called upon to comment in the media, including the CEO Mag, Herald Sun, Startup Smart, and Who's Who of Australian Women, as well as commenting in The Age. I'd now like to invite, who did I say was first? Bryce. Could you take the stage? Thank you.
Yes, definitely. G'day everyone, how are we? So my name is Bryce from the Rural Network, and as Gail did say, I do have to put in a huge apology for Ashley, which is the beautiful girl in this slide here, as she is away in China exploring some other endeavours. She's a designer as well. So I want to flick over now to my next slide and start with a bit of a story. Everyone likes a story. So, my story, I want to tell you about the time that I almost got kidnapped in the back of a brown Toyota Land Cruiser. So I just graduated from my Defence Force training, and I was back in my small regional community for a few days. And while I was away, I was getting friends and a few people from school to sort of help out my grandmother and my parents on the farm with doing various tasks and a few things like that. But those friendships were starting to wear very thin. So I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to figure out some other way that I can, help my family out, get this stuff done. So I was at the local pub that night, and I do apologise, I'm a dinky die country boy, so I'm pretty rough around the edges. And so I was down at the pub, I was ordering my fish and chips and nursing a beer and thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to not let my family down and make sure that these things get done, especially around my grandmother's garden and property. So anyway, this brown Land Cruiser pulls up, and this really rough looking fella jumps out, tattoos all up and down his arms, dreadies hanging out from under a dirty old Cobra and dirty work clothes, and he wanders up to the front of the pub and goes inside and re-emerges with beer. And we're standing on the front of the pub and he's rolling his smoke and all that sort of stuff while I'm waiting for my fish and chips. And I say, in my good country boy hospitality, I'm like, mate, have a seat, where are you from? Anyway, turns out he's from down south and he's travelling up north on his way to see if he can get a job as a station hand. And so he's telling me all about his passion for rural Australia. He's like, I'd never work in a city, I always want to be here. But at the same time, it's one of my biggest challenges is finding employment and trying to support myself and all that sort of stuff. So it's starting to get late by this stage, and I motioned to the publican. I'm like, mate, where's my fish and chips? I'm starting to get hungry. Anyway, the guy, he starts getting up and ready to leave. And I say, mate, you know what? I've actually got a few jobs around my grandmother's house and around the farm that you could actually come and do. And then he makes it worse by going, yeah, actually that'd be really great. And you can imagine the look on my face. I'm going, wait, what? Did you literally just, oh my God, I didn't expect you to say yes. Anyway, so so I'm sort of going through and I'm thinking, oh my God, did I really just invite this stranger to come and help my grandmother, my little poor sweet grandmother, come and help like with the tasks around her property? Anyway, so I find myself going, yep, mate, I'll meet you tomorrow morning, like, in at Claire, here's her address, blah, blah, blah. And that night, I'm laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, cold sweat sort of dripping down my face. And I get up, I'm like, oh my God, I can't. This guy is a complete stranger, don't know him, I'm gonna have to cancel. So, he could be psychotic, he could be a murderer. The guy on Wolf Creek was really nice at the start of the movie, but by the end of it, he ended up murdering them. I was like, I do not want that to happen. So I get up and go to call it off. But anyway, it turns out, don't judge a book by its cover. He was actually a really nice guy, and we've been in touch ever since. So he's actually now a pilot, and he's got 2 beautiful little girls. So this was like my first experience at employing a stranger to come and help people, come help my grandmother and my parents around the farm. And it became so familiar to me in doing this that I kept on doing it even when I moved interstate with my role in defence. So let's bring that forward now a few years. I'm on the farm, helping manage the farm with my father and mother. And, we're going through one of the toughest years for grain growers in South Australia. So I think it was 2014. We had a really dry spring, and our chances at growing a decent crop were really starting to dwindle. So this is where it starts to come into play. We sat down as a family and as a sort of management team, and we decided, look, sorry, Bryce, we can't afford to have you on or can't afford to pay you for this season. You're going to have to go out and find work somewhere else. And this was true as well for our workman, Wayno. And so, we were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go out. And so I text Ashley, my girlfriend, and I said to her, I was like, hey, Schultzy, I have a fantastic idea. I can't be home on the farm, but I've got all these sort of tangible skills that I can be using, whether it be sort of driving tractors or fencing or welding or whatever else. And so I send that off to her, and she comes back and she's like, yeah, fantastic, let's see what we can do. So we built a basic website, and literally it was 2 blokes, 1 country. So that summer we spent the whole time travelling around all of rural and regional SA, literally just knocking on people's doors, hey, 2 guys, do you need a hand with, literally anything from, handyman stuff to gardening to, driving tractors. So as you can see, that's myself and that's Wayno there. And we're at a property here down south near Pinaroo, I believe, actually. Literally just driving around and, 2 modern day swaggies. We ate canned food, slept on the ground in swags, and didn't shower nearly enough, but it was fantastic. We absolutely loved it. And, it's one of the things that we found was, while we were doing this, we found a way that we could actually go out and make friends, but also earn money. We're far out. None of our other friends have caught onto this or had this sort of exciting experience, and people showed us around their towns and around their farms, invited us out to dinners and beers and all that sort of stuff. And in the end, we had this fantastic network that we could sort of call upon and say, hey, do you need a hand? And that's kind of how it snowballed from one thing into another. So we came back that season or after that sort of trip, and Ash joined us as the design and marketing co-founder. And we buckled down to see if we could turn this into a business. So here's the pitch that we gave to people. We said, we want to build a website where people connect to complete strangers, and then they let people into their homes, their businesses, or on their farms, and they get them to do stuff. It's going to be a massive hit. So we sat back and we're like, oh, wait for the rocket to launch off. We're going to be like Airbnb and, straight to the top. But of course it didn't, right? So, because who in their right mind would employ a complete stranger to come into their farm or into their business and get them to do stuff around with their most intimate sort of spaces or objects or whatever. So when you're stuck in a situation, we went back to what we know and what we know that works. And that in rural Australia is definitely word of mouth. So we know that to be true for our inner circle or our inner circle of family and friends, where people at the local footy club or something like that. But here we were trying to build, Olympic trust between 2 different parties that had never met before. So we thought, can we design something or design a system that really sort of relays this word of mouth that we all know and do every single day and then brings it online and makes it more scalable? All right, so I've got a quick experiment, and I know you guys have been sitting down for ages. So if I get you all to stand up, that'd be fantastic, and give me a thumbs up if you're keen for the experiment. Sweet, love that. All right, cool. I want you to take out all of your phones, please, if you're keen for the experiment. Sweet, everyone's going along, awesome. All right, cool. And if I could get you to unlock that for me, please. Fantastic. And now I want you, this is the feeling you're going to get between what our task posters feel when they first post a task and what our real workers feel. So now your phone is unlocked. Can I get you to hand it to the person on your left? Look, that small, tiny sense of panic that you're all feeling right now, that is exactly how our task posters feel the first time they use the Real Network. They're freaking out going, this is new. Someone's got access to my personal sort of emails and data and messages and all that sort of stuff. Fantastic. Cool, so you can all hand your phones back now and you can stop freaking out. But most of us felt when we had that phone in our hands, we felt pretty responsible, right? Yeah. And that's how most of our real workers feel as well when they're coming onto someone's property or into someone's home to help them with their task. So that's what we've sort of come to the conclusion of. It's all about trust and building and using that old sort of principle of word of mouth and starting to bring that to the online environment. And by doing this, we are hoping that, we can overcome that sort of massive stranger danger bias that a lot of us sort of have, because our society's taught us that, strangers equal danger. So this is a quick sort of map of our growth that we sort of had over the last. We only launched in 2016, so we've had sort of a fairly sort of rapid growth in regional and rural SA. I do apologise, it's not quite the map that I thought that was, but that's okay. And once again, we're not always perfect as well. But over the small amount of actual tasks that have gone wrong, it's been less than a fraction of a % that have completely gone wrong. And for me, I am the customer service team because it's early days for us, and all those calls come directly to my mobile phone. And to be at that front line of that trust breaking, it's heartbreaking for me. I absolutely hate it to be talking to someone and they've invested their trust in you, they've overcome that stranger danger bias and it's gone completely wrong for them. But I think one of the best things, or that sort of thing is that it's my biggest thing, or our biggest thing, to make sure that we keep on improving and make sure that this doesn't happen again. So today's technology is designed around privacy. Think about Facebook, you think about all these other things. But what if we had a technology that was built from the ground up to be shared? And what if regional and rural communities in SA and other states in Australia adopted these sharing economy platforms and systems? So what if we had community and connection rather than isolation and separation that these platforms could facilitate? So in the end, we didn't develop anything new. Communities and small business have been around seriously forever, and same with word of mouth. But what we've done and what we've tried to create is bringing that word of mouth online for people to develop the trust and overcome that stranger danger bias. So the future for us, obviously, like I said, we haven't developed anything new, but what if we could make a small impact or a small dent in regional and rural communities and get people to open up their businesses, their homes, start sharing tasks, people start taking control of their own lives and their own careers, then I think the future for rural SA and regional SA with a sharing economy is very bright. So thank you guys for listening to the Prezzo. And we'd definitely love you guys to recommend the Rural Network for anyone that you know is living in rural or regional SA. Thanks.